হ্যালো, ওকে, ঠিক আছে তো? হ্যাঁ, ওকে।
Start notice.
Okay, sir. Then we shall start.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay. Once again, very good morning to all, and welcome to this series of special lectures organized by the Department of English in collaboration with IQAC Kekedas College. And this is the third day and second day for semester 5. Today, we have with us our speaker, Professor Asim Mondal, Assistant Professor in English, Ramakrishna Mission Residential College, Narendrapur, and of course, our Honorable Principal, Dr. Ramakrishna Prasad Chakraborty. Now, may I request to our Principal to say a few words and welcome our guest. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, my dear students. Asim,
Good morning, sir.
today's speaker, who has extended his support for my dear students, practically for the student community. Because you know the Google Classroom is for any student from across the state and join in this Google Classroom to get all the lectures and the notes. Thanks once again, Asim, for your extending support. And my dear student, please enter your name into the Google Classroom. Just you entered in the Google Classroom, since we need the record of you. And you will get all the documents regarding this series of lecture only from the Google Classroom. If you face any problem for entering in the classroom, then don't hesitate to mail us in kekedascollege@gmail.com. And we will, very shortly, we will arrange one training program for the student, how to use properly the Google Classroom, which will be very much benefited for you, and in near future, this will be the platform for you students. Thank you all for present here and your patience hearing on the lectures. And thank you, Asim, my brother from Narendrapur Ramakrishna Mission Residential College, Autonomous College, for delivering today's lecture. Thank you, Asim.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your encouraging words. And now I'll request to our speaker, Professor Asim Kumar Mondal, to start his deliberation. And he will be talking on T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Over to you, Asim.
Very good morning to everybody. Am I audible? So this is very
Yes,
frequent
you are audible.
questions right now.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, in a pandemic situation, and this is very, very symbolic also. Am I audible? And for the
Yes,
context of this poem, this questioning is also very, very indicative. So first thing first, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to dear principal, Dr. Professor Ramakrishna Prasad Chakraborty of KK Das College, the organizers, the support staff of this college, the Department of English, and the IQSC who, who are keen on organizing this kind of lecture series for the students in the time of, I don't know whether this term is apt, but we are using right now in these pandemic times, new normal. Okay, where we are actually we lost our uh, usual classroom. So this is a unique approach from this college that they are reaching to the communities. This is a very very uh, unique approach, and at the same time, this is a the huge face of this college that they are really really working hard for the students who are really dumbfounded at this very stage. Okay, so uh, without much ado, we should enter into our own class. That is, today's class is um, T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Uh, the students who are here in the classroom, I would ask you to have the texts with you because this is a typical classroom situation, and I will go by the text. Okay. So before that, there will be a presentation, PowerPoint presentation, and then we will discuss the poem in details. Okay. Uh, T.S. Eliot and his poems, and we are reading the poems almost 100 years down the line, and still his poems are relevant. Uh, so we are tracing in a way in this class we will trace uh, Eliot's time, time before Eliot, and his contemporary time, and the time that we are in, and how his poems are still has its own glory and his its own relevance even today. So the first thing that come into our mind while we discuss Eliot, modernism, modernity, all these things come. And you have one another poem I think that has already been discussed in the classroom, that is Preludes. Once again, this one, the love song of Alfred Prufrock, Tennyson's earlier attempts uh, of innovations, and at the innovations in terms of theme, innovations in terms of poetic diction, innovation in terms of uh, the uh, images, symbols, and the predicament of modern man, the angst, and sometimes we use some very very heavy loaded words like split self, uh, then scattered mind. All these we come across while we go through modern poems and also poems of T.S. Eliot. But thing is that we should realize these words are not the mere words. Uh, these words are so highly loaded. So why the uh, modern poets and we are actually we are using the term modern not in the sense of denotative terms, but we are using the terms uh, in the sense in the connotations meaning of the term modernity, modernism, uh, the modern. So in a way, all the artists, poets, novelists, uh, whatever the creative artist may be, they are modern in their own sense and in their own times. But while we're talking about uh, modernism, uh, modernism in our times, in Eliot's time, according to Laford's uh, French symbolist, it does mean uh, lifestyle and the nothingness, meaninglessness of our existence. And if we go back, if we we discuss all these things, that identity crisis, so and the theory of lack, even Freudian edifice, Lacanian lack, but all these things, if aside, we should understand why we are arriving at um, Eliot's poem or the modern poems. We have to keep us reminding that uh, what what did lead all these things. So three things is three things are very important to understand. One thing is the Hegelian society. That means the society which depends on cultivation, and the first thing industrial revolution, then this the change of industrial due to industrial revolution, that the society which depends on cultivation uh, witness a paradigm shift. Uh, the people living in uh, rural settings, knowing each other by their names, in a village, in a society, uh, but they are cooked up in a urban setting and not knowing each other. So it's a huge identity crisis due to industrial revolution, and then came the scientific approach towards life. The second half of 19th century, and specifically, I should say, 1860s onwards. 1860s onwards, you will see a huge a sea change in perspective, and almost God is demolished. God is demolished by the scientific uh, uh, phenomena, that is Darwin's theory of evolution. So, so the universe is a unified whole. That idea almost crashed into dust. Okay, so then in the turn of the century, and then also from the English point of view, it's very important to understand Eliot's point of view, and also the modern common man point of view that the glorious run of uh, English uh, empire had received a blow, and most of the colonies, Sifai, Mifini, and other parts of Africa and the other countries, they are aspiring, and they're developing their uh, aspiration to a platform to have their independence. Okay, so this is actually the background where you can understand uh, the modern man's angst. So while England is losing her colonies in everywhere, so it has a direct impact on English economy and the rising number of unemployment everywhere, uh, everywhere, and uh, this also culminates uh, the so-called angst uh, for the English young people. So now you know this poem, uh, "Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock." This is the tone is very ironic. In the way, the title is very important. I should start my. Let us start if it works. The PowerPoint. Uh, just please wait. Is the PowerPoint coming? Is the PowerPoint coming? Is it visible on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I am starting my PowerPoint presentation quoting from W.B. Yeats that Eliot has produced his great effect upon his generation because he has described men and women that get out of bed or into it from mere habit. This part is very important to understand. And the next part, in describing this life, that has lost heart, his own art seems grey, cold, and dry. Grey, cold, dry. W. Yeats, this is the introduction to the Oxford Book of Modern Verse, 1936. Look at the next slide. Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock is a quintessential work of Eliot in his early period, representing the poet's critique of contemporary life, which experienced a spiritual vacuum and degeneration following World War I. This poem also testifies Eliot's achievement in stylistic innovation, thematic and linguistic complexity, and the enactment of psychic conflicts. Next slide. The form of the poem is that of dramatic monologue. And you know, this dramatic monologue is developed by Robert Browning and also Lord Tennyson. And this is actually an attempt to counter the confessional poems, autobiographical poems of Romantic age, who exploited dramatic monologue as a poetic tool to counter the confessional mode of poetry exercised by the Romantic poets. Eliot's use of dramatic monologue is different from Browning. If you understand dramatic monologue in your literary terms, then you will understand this one. The dramatic monologue as the image of Brahms. What is a dramatic monologue? Anyone? Anyone in the classroom can suggest what is a dramatic monologue? As we understand as a student, what is a dramatic monologue? Okay. So, in his monologue, the difference between the subject and the object is often blurred. But we know in Tennyson's dramatic monologue and Browning's dramatic monologue, there is a clear-cut auditors or the silent listeners. But here, in Eliot's dramatic monologue, it is sometimes overlaps, coalesced, enmeshed. It is difficult to determine when, where, and to whom the persona speaks. Eliot acknowledged his debt to the later Elizabethan drama, the metaphysical poets, and Jules Laforge in his use of dramatic monologue. And in the process of understanding this poem, you will see an array of allusions, allusions from almost everywhere, from the classical poets, then to our metaphysical poets, Elizabethan dramatists, Petrarch, so, and recently Robert Browning and Tennyson. So almost he touches and explores the artistic acts or the creative act that has already been taking place. And this is also from Eliot's point of view, this is a kind of a scene, a skirting around what he is trying to mention, not to touch that. So this is also an inactiveness or ineffectiveness rather as a modern man. So in this context, I would like to request you to go through a essay written by Bertrand Russell on modern uncertainties. This is hardly one page and spilling over 2-3 lines. Sorry, on modern uncertainties. There he also shows how our intellect becomes an importance of being effective. Okay, so once again we are here. The form in which I begin to write in 1908 and 1909 was directly drawn from the study of Laforge together with the later Elizabethan drama. Introduction to Selected Poems of Ezra Pound, 1928. The features of Laforge's monologue that influenced Eliot, the play of thought and feeling, the alliance of levity and seriousness. So while he's talking about levity and seriousness, you as a student, fifth semester, you can relate it to the metaphysical poets. And he was an avid lover of metaphysical poets and their dissociation of sensibility. And there was a persona, not the poet himself, is unlocking his or her heart. So here once again, the features of Laforge's monologue influenced Eliot. Okay. So here, self-irony and self-irony is very, very evident in this poem too. And the Laforgian poetic persona trapped in the commonplace, but longing for the ideal. And the next slide, Eliot's Prufrock yearns for romance, the very beginning of the poem. Let us go, you and I. It indicates the Prufrock yearns for romance, yet mocks and parodies his desire because he is trapped in a social world. Social world, try to understand this term, social world is very, very important. Social world is always a box, always a scrutiny, always a camera. You are always under surveillance, that somebody is monitoring you, and uh, it's not that people are very, very judgmental, and it is actually pushing you to the brink of your uh, brink of your uh, existence, and sometimes it pushes you uh, almost of a mental breakdown. So this is a modern existence. This is a typical existential reality. So Eliot's Prufrock uh, yearns for romance, yet mocks and parodies his desire because he is trapped in a social world which should only ridicule such aspirations. For Prufrock to give expression to his inner self would be to risk the prospect of psychic disintegration. Psychic disintegration, then everybody will come to know, oh, this man is like this. Oh my God, because we are all having masks, and we are all having as a modern uh, man and women, we are putting on masks. We are posing that what we are not. So this poem, for Prufrock to give expression to his inner self, would be to risk the prospect, and that is why the very epigraph is very, very relevant, and he has taken the refuge of that epigraph, and the epigraph is actually the central aspect of this poem. Big risk to prospect of psychic disintegration and to endanger his place in the accepted social order. We are always trying to maintain that my image, and we are very conscious about my image, and uh, we are really taking care of our own image that has been built, maybe falsely, that has been built in the society, the social order. Uh, so he can therefore articulate his desires only through irony, parody, and negations. And you will see in this poem the abundance use of irony, parody, and negation. Prufrock is a satire on Boston society. Prufrock is much the product of the milieu, which is congested with learning, hypercritical, concerned, self-conscious, filled with a sad desiccation. And Prufrock cannot be isolated from his environment, the modern version of Dante's medieval Inferno. Look at the title. Look at the title of the poem. The title of the poem encapsulates the distance between the author and the poetic persona of the poem. It exemplifies an anti-romantic impersonation, filled with uh, the name, the very name, compounded of crude and frock. Throughout this poem, you will realize there is a forced juxtaposition of dissimilar images. So, prude and frock advocates verbal associations of prudence, prudishness, dandyism. The unromantic sound of the name J. Alfred Prufrock. There are so many debates, so many discussions, so many researches have already been taken place of who the real J. Alfred Prufrock is. And after 1910, Eliot started writing his own name as T. full stop Stern Eliot, just like that way. And sometime it is in the city, one of the um, carpenter or the once again that Freudian edifice coming to being. His name was Prufrock. So J. Alfred Prufrock actually upsets the romantic expectation aroused by the first part of the title. First part of the title. So first part of the title, just let us go then, you and I. Let us go then, you and I. The beginning is very, very romantic, so to say. And then when the evening is spread out against the sky, this is the beginning of the poem. And the first part, the love song. And then this is very serious, the love song. And the moment it has been joined by the preposition of, then you can understand it is not a traditional love poem. The levity has already been introduced. Okay, so it also suggests the social class of the speaking persona. The title thus epitomizes the poetic process to be followed by Eliot later, the element of self-irony and impersonality. The next slide, the dedication of the poem. Jean Vardinal was Eliot's fellow lodger in Paris between 1910 and 1911. He was then a medical student who later became an army medical officer. He was killed in 1915 in Dardanelles in Turkey. Both Eliot and Vardinal were admirers of Laforge. For Jean Vardinal indicates that for Eliot, Vardinal is still alive. The lines comprising the dedication are from Divine Comedy. This is Purgatorio section by Dante Alighieri. Dante is being conducted through the Inferno and Purgatory by the spirit of Roman poet Virgil. In the fifth circle of the Purgatory, they encounter the spirit of another Roman poet, Statius, who had drawn his poetic inspiration from Virgil. When Dante reveals Virgil's identity, once again, the identity is very important. Statius stoops to embrace his master's fate in homage. Virgil stops him with the reminder that they are both empty shells. Eliot quotes Statius' answer, "Now canst thou comprehend the measure of the love which warms me towards thee, when I forget our nothingness and treat shades as a solid thing." This quotation reinforces the theme of insubstantiality, emptiness, and apparent superficiality of existence in a degenerated society. And now look at the epigraph. Epigraph is very important because it is an integral part to understand the poem in a whole. Epigraph provides us with the hints to the theme of the poem, or often it reflects on the genesis of it. I quote, "If I thought my answer were to one, whoever could return to the world, this flame should shake no more. But since none ever did return alive from this depth of hell, if what I hear be true, without fear of infamy, I answer thee." These words are spoken by Count Guido in Dante's Inferno. In the eighth chasm of hell, Dante sees fate of evil counselors who had misused their superior wisdom to deceive others. Guido too is punished here for his treacherous advice on earth to Pope Boniface. Each sinner is imprisoned in the flame of his consciousness and tormented by its burning. So Dante requests Guido to reveal his identity. "So may thy name on earth maintain its front." Guido does so only because he believes that Dante too is one of the damned who will never return to the world to reveal his identity. So it won't be disclosed, and his identity in the social order will be intact. This epigraph is thus ironical. It applies the seriousness of hellish condition. So hellish condition is, once again, you can understand Conrad's Heart of Darkness, uh, the horror of my existence. So it applies the seriousness of hellish condition on Prufrock's situation. Prufrock, just like Guido, is going to reveal a secret which carries a risk of infamy. So we are now entering our discussion, the poem. Let us go then, you and I. The debate starts when the subjective I surrenders to the more objective you. And throughout this poem, you will come across so many objectives, correlatives. You will understand that the very word, the correlations. So it is bits and pieces of images, and that images instantly uh, indicates or emotionally indicates to our own understanding of a particular thing, that is objective correlative. In uh, Macbeth's uh, sleepwalking scene, uh, there is no reference of mental sickness of Lady Macbeth, but through some images, we understand Lady Macbeth is having a serious mental trauma. So uh, I'm coming to this point at the end of the poem also, because this is very important to understand the poem, the objective correlative. Uh, Throughout this poem, he has used uh, just a, uh, he's a master of using this uh, poetic device, objective correlative, that is also he has coined. So let us go, you and I. The debate starts when the subjective I surrenders to the more objective you and agrees to go somewhere for perhaps more acceptable rendezvous. This beginning immediately recalls the opening lines of Browning's The Last Ride Together or John Donne's Good Morrow. The difference is that, unlike the poems of Browning or Donne, in Eliot's composition, the I and you are denied to have distinct identities. Rather, they often coalesce with other in the poetic process. Eliot here implies the technique of de-doublement of the personality, the split between subjective and the objective self of one's persona. The you and I could be the division of Prufrock's own self, the thinking and the observing self, the emotional and the intellectual, the public and the private, the material and the spiritual. The anticipated journey will take place when the evening is spread out against the sky like like a patient etherized upon a table. The evening derives its character from the state of mind. The evening derives its character from the state of mind of the speaker. Mind initially, according to, from the classical understanding, this is a tabula rasa, there is no impression there. But now, actually, from the deconstructive ideas, that we derive meaning in the outside world, that we are actually coming across in our day-to-day existence, it has no meaning. We actually impose meaning upon all those things. Okay, so once again, that uh, anticipatory journey will take place when the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. Look, here once again, the journey is somehow uh, is uh, not vertical. The poem understanding uh, or the images that are being used in this poem, the images are very, very vertical because of the modern man's ends and his ineffectiveness. But here, the stretching the time or spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table, the evening derives its character from the state of mind of the speaker, which is submissive. The metaphor of etherization suggests the desire for inactivity to the point of enforced release from pain. Prufrock is inactive only to free himself from the pain of degenerated existence. The journey is taken up in the physical world marked by, this is very city landscapes, half deserted streets, muttering retreats, sawdust restaurants, one night cheap hotels. These are all very, very suggestive one. Half deserted streets are being personified. And we have so many parallels in our Bengali stories in Jagots also. So the consciousness of the street and how the street is taking records uh, of the people walking by and having their size and their stories and the secrets, everything. So half deserted streets, muttering retreats, sawdust restaurants, one night cheap hotels, uh, etc. This description, on one hand, evokes a wasteland. I'm not talking about the poem wasteland, but it is the wasteland whose vector, whose direction uh, towards nothingness, or sometimes it becomes a zero vector because it is a shield. The poem starts with a vector. Let us go, you and I. So the word go actually is it's a imposition on the act of moving. But while we understand the poem's trajectory or the poem's thematic dynamics, then we will realize that it is going nowhere. Okay, so uh, the city state of Boston, which suffers from spiritual vacuity. So spiritual vacuity, you can understand why spiritual vacuity, because it is the very position of God is almost demolished, and the once again the godlike status of England, the colony everywhere, they are also losing their colonies. And Yeats, in his second coming, talking about center cannot hold, things fall apart. The very title of Chinua Achebe's famous novel, Things Fall Apart, and also the center and the tension between center and periphery. So here, uh, the broken images can be seen as a projection of the speaker's own consciousness. So those broken images are actually objective correlatives. The things are disjointed, the images are disjointed, but those images connects your emotions and you draw a meaning out of out of those uh, out of those uh, barely have any connections with that emotion. But the moment it has been uttered, uh, and you are having that, you are actually embracing that emotion. Okay, the the streets which lead one to an overwhelming questions can be interpreted as the unsolved puzzle concerning the meaning of Prufrock's life, social or existential, the the meaninglessness of uh, modern life. And once again, he is tracing back Macbeth's realization when he was reported about the death of his wife. The destination of Prufrock's journey is a room where I quote, women come and go talking of Michelangelo. Women come and go talking of Michelangelo. The shallowness of the historic society is highlighted. These women do not understand the creative import of Michelangelo, but they discuss his name as routine activity to exhibit their eruditeness. The heroic sound, and especially the carefully dramatized sound of the painter's name, is what muffles these women. So, and once again, I just mentioning here that the caesura just before the disturbing or jarring effect of the uh, word, the sound Michelangelo, but the closed O and the open O, Michelangelo and go, and women O, come O, that O sounds actually means nothingness. It's just a big zero. It's a nothingness, and the the Fafis society and the women, they're trying to project themselves as quote unquote in. They are in theme. If you don't discuss that, I'm just digressing a bit. If you don't discuss about pandemic, about Sushant Singh Rajput, you are not in. These are the in theme. So talking about that Renaissance artist Michelangelo, and you are actually projecting himself how erudite you are. So you are in, and you are discussing all these things when you are having a social gatherings. The topics are so very highly elevated one. So now the sources of the next our next slide. The sources of Eliot's urban imagery are both autobiographical and literary. He was influenced by Baudelaires' exploitation of the more sordid aspects of the modern metropolis, and he has a poem. I just forget the name. Train or station at a metropolis or something like that. He has shown the void, the utter void we are having living in this time, and in the modern spiritually bankrupt or spiritually paralyzed society, where there is no such a center cannot hold, where you can go back and um, draw solace. Okay, so the influence of landscapes upon the poet. That's one of the major work. This tendency leads him to describe the yellow fog and the yellow smoke of the city life. These are the images of pollution and environmental contamination, which is actually emblematic of the spiritual pollution. The description of the fog in terms of a cat, you know, Eliot was a very keen observer of cat, and he also had um, mm, some cats in his disposal. Uh, so in terms of cat reflects, and also the image of cat, the symbolic cat, uh, cat reflects to Fox's mental state. So while we're talking about cat sleep, it's a complete inaction, lethargy, laziness, and on the other hand, a desire which ends in inertia. The cat image also reinforces the associations with sexual desire and a keen inclination for inactivity. This is once again objective correlative. And then in the next section of the poem, he is keen on saying there will be time. You have to understand while we are discussing this poem, Love Song of Alfred Prufrock, the treatment of time and understanding that treatment is also an integral part of understanding the poem. Time is here treated not as a linear time. It is a conceptual time. It is a flow of time where we just an eyewitness, the flow of the river, just like that, the stream of consciousness, the time is just like that, a stream. And this is not a typical linear time that we understand in our historical perspective. So there will be time, time, there will be time here is, you know, a sense of procrastination. This is a modern tendency and the typical uh, medical association of um, depression. There will be time. So you were constantly making things delayed, making things delayed. There will be time. There will be time. Time offers Prufrock. Time offers Prufrock an escape. This escape is good until the crucial moment of the question arrives. Prufrock takes comfort in the thought that there will be enough time to make a decision. But there is also a painful awareness that the crucial time will inevitably arrive. The time may be interpreted as the moment of realizing the true love, or the moment of transcending the apathy and inertia to take part in a meaningful action, or as the desirable moment of revealing the truth. Revealing the truth is very important to understand. Truth, truth doesn't lie anywhere. Truth doesn't lie uh, in an outside objects. Truth is truth lies within. Okay, the later poems of Eliot justify his understanding of truth, and while he is directing his idea towards mm, uh, eastern part or the Eastern philosophy of the East, and also the Hindu way of life. So here, the time may be interpreted as the moment of realizing the true love, or the moment of transcending the apathy and inertia in order to revealing the truth. The phrase, there will be time, reverberates throughout the entire section. It echoes the words of the preacher in Ecclesiastes. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, a time to die. The gap between the momentous nature of these works listed here and the banalities of Prufrock's works are hereby highlighted. And at the same time, you can uh, remind yourself that Marvel's poem to his coy mistress, that if the uh, um, world enough, had we but world enough and time, from metaphysical poet and do marvels to his coy mistress. The lover is constantly pursuing his beloved to make love, and they will uh, allow or afford uh, time if they have enough time. But as per the life is concerned, the times we get chariot hurrying near, there is no time. So, uh, according to that uh, Epicurean theology, or that syllogistic pattern of the poem, and also that carpe diem theme, that pluck the roses when it is young. Uh, so once again, this is the very effectiveness, or the effectiveness of modern man. They are completely paralyzed. Okay, so, and the next part of the poem, I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. Coffee spoon is associated with the day-to-day trivial activities. By comparing life with coffee spoon, and coffee spoon has a typical measure, and also a mundane existence, very common existence. It's not that you were in the morning, you get up and feel that you are special, and Shelley has written all his poems for you, and you are feeling special. Not just like that, but it's a complete nothingness between, and you feel that coffee spoon is once again the trivialities of human life. So Eliot, with an electric shock, shows Prufrock's whole futile way of existence. The image, the images of the voices, eyes, and arms, the fragmented parts of the female body, underlying the fragmented self of Prufrock himself. The voices dying with a dying fall alludes once again Shakespeare's comedy, Twelfth Night, Orsino's exclamation, Act 1, Scene 1. The strain again, it had a dying fall. The dying voice illustrates the death in life existence of Prufrock. And that is why the procrastination. That is why the lethargy. That is why the not leaving the bed in proper time. The eyes that fix you. This is what I have told you in the very beginning of the lecture, that it is the world of judgment. Everybody is judgmental towards you and measuring you, and that's why the we have measured my life. Uh, I have measured I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. So once again, the the very the fix that the eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase. Formulated phrase means preconceived idea. So you have put on this dress, so you are just like this, and he has formulated, or she has formulated, or the uh, inquisitive eyes in the windows looking at you and measuring you in his or her own standard. Okay, that fixed eye fix you in a formulated phrase, impose on Prufrock an identity of an insect, identity of an insect in Kafka's Metamorphosis. That boy transformed into into an insect. So, and also pinning to kill that insect. Though the arms that are braceleted and white and bare evoke some sensuousness and erotic urges, these are far from actual gratification of romantic love. He begins but never finishes his proposal. After the preamble, shall I say the psychological block sets in again, and he concludes by observing the kind of creature he should have been, a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent sea. There is once again an allusion and also correlatives. There is an allusion to Hamlet's words to Polonius in Hamlet, Act 2, Scene 2. For you yourself, sir, should be old as I am, if, like a crab, you could go backwards. The lines express Prufrock's acute self-disgust and panic, and his desire for a release from consciousness. After this section, we encounter a series of heroic parallels, which only intensifies the mock heroic tone. The reference to John the Baptist, Lazarus, and Hamlet had been made. So we are in the next section where I quote, I am no prophet, and here's no great matter. Prufrock draws a mock heroic parallel between himself and John the Baptist in his feeling of being decapitated. So, the once you are decapitated, there is no identity. Once again, the identity crisis, the split self, scattered identity. John the Baptist had declared, this is once again an allusion, uh, anecdote. John the Baptist had declared the Herod's marriage to Herodias unlawful on the ground that she was the wife of Herod's brother. This prophet was decapitated on Herod's order, and his head was brought upon a platter before the assembled company. Unlike the prophet, Prufrock lacks the courage to tell the truth and declines the role. The eternal footman, once again the reference of footman at the hell gate or footman, the eternal footman, the time is eternal footman holding coat and speaker possibly is a parodic allusion to the Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. In the course of Christian's pilgrimage to the eternal city, a ministering spirit of the Lord strips him of his rags and gives him a coat so that the Lord will recognize his goodness. Once again, you can have a glimpse of persona vis-a-vis Eliot's inclination, mental inclination. I quote, I was afraid. This is actually Prufrock's timidity of self is revealed. And then we discuss, henceforth, he looks back upon the event and rationalizes his failure. I quote, would it have been worth it? Eliot probably had in mind Arthur Symon's description of Laforgue in the symbolist movement in literature. So symbolist movement, try to trace the symbolist movement. Symbolist movement talks about that everything can be represented through disjointed symbols. And once again, through objective correlatives, successfully, Eliot has appropriated that symbolist movement in his poetic creation. Okay, so description of Laforgue in the symbolist movement in literature. In Laforgue, sentiment is squeezed out of the world before one begins to play at ball with it. In his depiction of Prufrock's desire to have squeezed the universe into a ball. Squeeze the universe into a ball. This is so many connotations. Uh, there is sexual connotations. There is the unified whole connotations, and there is another way of saying that in metaphysical poem to his coy mistress. Uh, Lover and the beloved enmeshed together in such a way they become a ball, a unified a ball, and there is no way you can separate from each other. So this line records the severe discrepancy between desire and achievement in Prufrock's life. The reference of Lazarus, once again, it is an allusion, becomes the Lazarus who came back from hell and described the hellish condition that is unbearable. So Lazarus becomes very important in this juncture. From Luke uh, uh, 16, we come to know that Dives implores Abraham to send back Lazarus from death to his five brothers to warn them of the torment of hell. From Prufrock, this experience of hell is synonymous to his death-like existence. The identification with Lazarus is brushed aside as he becomes aware of the futility of his endeavor. This the image of magic lantern. This is the next part. The image of the magic lantern throwing the knobs in patterns on a screen. Patterns on a screen, once again, that the constantly reminding the tabula rasa, reminds us of Eliot's comment. One must look into the cerebral cortex, the nervous system, and the digestive tracts in his selected essays. And in the next section, we are entering. No, I quote, no, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. This passage is influenced by Laforge's prose meditation on Hamlet. Prufrock may resemble Hamlet in his indecisiveness and procrastination, but he rejects the role for his inadequacy to perform the heroic task of settling the world in order. আমার পরে নেই ভুবনের ভার, just like that. The time is out of joint. The time is out of joint. I'm quoting, "O cards spite that ever I was born to set it right." Hamlet, this is Act 1, Scene 5. Prufrock is unable to undertake any action like Hamlet, who killed Polonius, mistaking for Claudius. On the other hand, he finds parallel, or Prufrock finds parallel in Fool. Fool is the court gesture with a sense of paradoxical wisdom. Prufrock's role is that of a fool here, who is conscious of the misery of existence, yet unable of taking any significant or heroic action because of lack of power. The long and heavy sounds of weariness. The next part of our discussion, our presentation. The long and heavy sounds of weariness is hard in this section of the poem. I grow old, dot, 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 I grow old, unquote. By wearing the bottom of his trousers, there are so many connotations, so many interpretations of the trousers and rolled one, trousers rolled and approaching old age, and parting his hair behind the fog. He is dramatizing himself, playing the role of a dandy. He knows that the mermaid will not sing to him. For Donne to have her mermaid singing, to have her mermaid singing is to have accomplished the illusory and the impossible. Teach me to hear mermaids singing. This is from Donne's song. The tension between the actual and the illusory is unbearable. So we are coming to our last section of our presentation, and I think you have many questions. I will answer those questions if I can. Uh, the last section of the poem, rather, which is actually uh, has a similarity uh, to Petrarchan uh, sonnet system and the rhyme scheme, and also this is a digging of mooning of uh, beloved Laura. The imagery of the sea again emerges at this point, signifying Prufrock's suppressed self. The watery, floating imagery involves the relaxation of all effort, offers a submerged fulfillment. The imageries used in the concluding section of this poem evoke a romantic reverie of escape rather than a sincere articulation of the buried self. The poem ends with human voices wake us and we drown, with the intrusion of reality. The inner self is drowned. The ambivalent suggestion of both waking and drowning offer no possibility to escape. Either way, we drown. When indulging in dreams of escape or, or taking the route of dream as a possible escape route, and when we inevitably awaken to the sounds of human voices, and that human voice, that human world, the world of judgment, that is actually, once again, the world of nothingness. To folks, two selves are submerged again, not resolved with the return of reality. This is actually the end of my presentation. If you have, I think you have so many questions, because in one class it is not possible to answer all these things, because this poem is loaded with so many interpretations, so many allusions, so many references, scholarly references. So I ask my dear students to have uh, any questions to ask. I will try to answer those questions. Please. So I'm seeing the questions here. So my students, any questions to ask from the text?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I have a question that Prufrock somewhere says that women come and go talking about Michelangelo.
Right,
How
right.
much do you think is this comment superficial about the current society prevailing at that time, where women used to talk and this was the order of the day and gossip? Any observations that you can come?
Yes, and that is where the relevance of the poem we talk about, that the, the world of, and that is what we always having a tightrope walking, and in the back of our mind, I am extremely suffering from identity crisis, but uh, clearly in a measured way, I have established of my own image in the society, and in no at no cost, I would like to dent on that, having a dent on that. So that is why, it is not only always directing towards women, but also it is also the also male folk. We are actually putting mask and guarding our own self which is actually always shadow, or always a the false image that I have built up. And this is
Okay, sir.
absolutely
That you mean,
absolutely superficial, because we are not sincere about who I am, and in a way we are actually going away from my center towards the periphery. Okay.
okay, sir. That means it's a kind of veiled existence. Is that okay?
Yes, it's a veiled existence. And the
Okay.
tightrope
Thank you, sir.
walking, the more you are having a tightrope walking, more you are going into the zone of depression.
Okay, sir. Neglecting the present identity crisis. That's what the
Yes,
thing is. Okay, sir.
yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Over to you.
Students, any questions? It's a very important poem, and it's not possible. I have a desire to uh, take classes on the very particular text, but time does not permit that. Anyone? Any questions? My student, any questions?
I think there is no question,
Okay.
Professor Mondal.
Well, okay.
Yes.
So we can call it a day for the time
I
being.
think so. Yes, yes. I think they have understood the conflicts as well as the significance of the poem and how Eliot has problematized the modern day dilemma in particularly this poem. And I can understand this is quite difficult to complete Eliot's poem in a day. But thank you very much for giving us time and at the same time make a very vibrant and eloquent speech. Thank you once again. Thank you, student. Thank you, Professor Mondal.
Thank you.